same reason. Eric Bischoff did it out of either ignorance or inexperience of the wrestling business. What were your excuses? Remember the gold tooth?
Vince.
Yeah, you think it's real cute and funny. Remember the gold tooth, the country music star? Vince, you had a vision of what you wanted Double J, Jeff Jarrett, to be. And quite honestly, in all due respect, your vision sucked.
Yeah, it may have.
Vince, you told me to come out here tonight and shoot, and that's exactly what I'm doing, right between your eyes. You can take With My Baby Tonight and stick it up your butt.
That's not nice.
Because from here on out, it's gonna be Jeff Jarrett's way.
Okay, that's about a 7-minute promo, and that's probably about a minute and a half of it. So what was the story on this? Because it doesn't look like you're trying to remember everything. It's kind of coming right off the cuff.
Then I did a good job. It was one of those times when, like, a lot of people refer to it as a shoot promo.
Yeah.
Look, it was the early days of Vince Russo. The thing was scripted, but it was reality based.
Yeah.
And in Memphis, that's really all I don't say ever did, because Lawler had clowns and monsters and all that, but we always used a reality-based mindset. That was all reality-based. So the Double J character coming back in, the mindset was, and Vince, and both Vinces, Vince Russo and Vince McMahon, how are we going to form this character? Let's flow it out. Let's get a jumping off point. But we all, me, for sure, but Vince wanted to capitalize that literally 1 week I was on Nitro, next week. So do the jump. I was jumping back. So we wanted to capitalize on that. The stories were set in place. Survivor Series was about to come up. The Brett situation was going down. There was a lot of things. You were shooting to the moon, but there were a lot of things going on storyline-wise that I obviously wasn't a part of, but we wanted to capitalize on. 1 week I'm on Nitro, 1 week I'm on Raw.
Okay. But you come back into the swing of things and you're doing still a country singer gimmick. But now we're getting in 97, 98, and it's not really fit for WWE as far as the Attitude Era goes. What led you to ditching the country star gimmick and tagging up with Owen Hart?
It was going to be more or less Jeff Jarrett, what we just saw on the in-ring interview. It went from that didn't get off to the right foot. There were a lot of things going on. Then they put me in some people call it the Aztec Indian singlet. I hated the singlet. Let's go down the Jeff Jarrett wrestler role. That didn't work. And then in some creative meeting, it's like, okay, we're going to go anti-Attitude Era and get our old boy Robert Fuller, Tennessee Lee. We're going to kind of recreate the Double J character, go over the top. Now he's got a manager, and kind of thought we were headed down that role. And then as you are at the very tip top of that, Stone Cold, Rock, DX, we could go all the way down that. That character didn't fit. It was square peg, round hole in every shape, form, or fashion. And that's when creative, because I think it came from Vince McMahon through Russo, let's cut his hair and come up with a new look. I said, hell yeah. Being a hair versus hair match in Madison Square Garden at SummerSlam, I'm in. Knowing that was the radical shift in my character. Cut my hair and then off to, we'll call it the don't piss me off era is what that's what the toy makers call it.
So, but sometimes two singles get put together and to form a tag team and doesn't really mesh. But when you and Owen got put together, there was immediate chemistry between you guys. And you guys were like a tag team that had been around for years. So what was it like tagging with Owen? Why the instant synergy?
We had traveled some and buddies, and he had young kids. I had young kids. We were, and I've said this so many times on different interviews. When you come from wrestling families and both of our dads were promoters, when you got in the car, you almost knew what the other one was thinking wrestling-wise. So we really didn't talk about much wrestling very often. We would talk a little bit. When you looked at the roster, me and Owen both knew immediately we can have success as a tag team. It's one of those things, kind of veterans. All right, how are we going to get a slot, make good money, have good matches, move up the card, be in a good slot. There were no single slots on the heel side that we thought we were going to break through. Mick, Kane, Taker, depending on what month, wherever it was at. But we knew we had a good slot, and we went with it and loved it. And we just clicked. He's a heel and I'm a heel, but we're not bookend heels. We're two different characters. And I think the people knew that, but they both knew that we could go, but we're heels.
One of the things I liked about Owen was, you'd be dragged out on territory. You know how long we stayed on the road back in the day? And Owen would always come up with some kind of bullshit. Just the most random things that obviously I think he spent a lot of time thinking about, but because they were executed so well. What was it like traveling with Owen?
It's like somebody just recently said this. It's like living a Seinfeld. Being around Owen, it was a much to do about nothing, but he would literally make the most minute, nonchalant trip go by. We'd have a young guy in the back, and Owen would rib himself and put the heat wide open, or in the summertime, keep the air off. And just, there were so many different things just to pass the time. And Owen didn't mind ribbing himself to get a laugh. And tell the story about him getting a Southwest stewardess, having a debate with her on how to spell San Bernardino. And he literally had the back, we would load on those cattle cars, Southwest, go to the back of the plane. There's probably 10 of us back there, but there's also people that are not with our group. And he asked the lady, hey, we're flying to San Bernardino. How do you spell that? And the lady just kind of answers, Sanber. He goes, is that a capital B or not? And he's with the deadpan, the deadpan look Owen would have, and just kind of look at the lady, and she'd go, it's with a capital B. And he goes, I don't think it is. And just be silent. And then he'd say, ma'am, could you go get me a pen and paper? And you just go, Owen, we know where you're going with this. Do we really have to put up with the whole flight? And then all of a sudden, Road Dogg would be, he was there. He was in on this joke, but he couldn't keep a straight face. So, of course, Owen knew that. Road Dogg, will you write out San Bernardino? She doesn't believe you don't know how to spell it. And, of course, the lady didn't say that. She goes, I didn't. You said he couldn't spell it. Now spell it for her. So, just much ado about nothing, but just the most simplistic, fun stuff, man. One of a kind.
I hate to segue from that, but tragically, we would lose Owen at the Over the Edge pay-per-view, and which was devastating. And I remember I was going to work in the main event that night with Undertaker, and I just remember the accident happening, and it was like all of a sudden word comes to the back because that monitor's back there, but we were just kind of talking about what might happen in our match, and word got around that he had taken the fall from the sky on top of the Kemper Arena. And man, I remember working the main event that night. I remember the show went on, but it was just like, I don't remember the match. I don't remember trying to work the crowd. I just remember going out there feeling kind of numb. And that screwed everybody up because first of all, anybody that would have been lost that night would have been a tragedy, but everybody just had this thing about Owen because he was that guy that everybody rallied around. How did that affect you?
I didn't realize how bad it affected me till 19 years later when I got into the darkest part of my life and it all came out. But when it went down, because I remember it like it was yesterday, he left his house on a Saturday. We were going to Allstate Arena, Chicago live event. Sold out, some bitch, asked Ricky Morton. But he got there late. We're working against Edge and Christian. I'm dressed. Edge and Christian dressed. We're supposed to go over the match, and Owen comes in, and he hears it. He says, Jeff, come here. We get in a little bathroom stall, and he pulls in his tights, these red noses. We talked about it in my Hall of Fame. But anyway, he wants to play a rib on these kids and throw us together. Me and him got red noses on. That's Saturday night. Sunday morning, remember Steve Blackman?
Yeah.
Bradshaw, we're at baggage claim in Kansas City. The Owens over in the corner, having fun with it. Yeah. Bradshaw's going to, anyway, so all that. And then we get to the building and Matt Miller, remember Matt Tickets? Him and Owen were buddies. And God, just people don't realize it was the Wild West, but Owen found us a little bathroom to dress her in, way up a hall. So it was a small little area. And we went in there. I think Owen was supposed to be on third and I was on fourth. And so we're up there getting dressed. The show had started, and Matt Miller goes, let's go, Owen, because he had to go up top.
Yeah.
So he goes up, and I know that, okay, I've got that, end of second, all of Owen's third, and I'm on fourth. So I've got 15 minutes. Excuse me. And it was real quick, Steve. And here comes Matt. Jeff, let's go. And I go, no, it can't be. I wasn't ready. And I'm like, I throw tape, all, blah, 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 and I take off running that. And I was just like, what the hell's going on? And they put us over, me and Deborah said, go do this promo. I mean, just kind of bizarre. And I've told this story before. They wheel him by, and Francois is on top of him, and there's the whole mass of people going. And I finish the promo, and Owen goes that way, and the whole medical scene, and they tell us to go this way. We go, Steve, up into the, go down the aisle. It's all a blur, but the one thing I'll never forget, get up in the ring like we do and feel the ropes, top ropes really loose. And I walk over into that corner, and there was the divot. And that's when the whole kind of thing went into, he didn't sprain his knee. Because I thought Matt Miller said, hey, man, he fell. And I immediately go, oh, man, his knee's screwed up. They had to stop the match. I'm not thinking the worst at all. And when that happened and all that, and we go through as a mixed tag, Val and Cole Bass and whatever the match was, and like all of us went through it got it done. And I come through the curtain, and Matt and a police officer are there, and I said, I want to go now. And they knew it. And I told the cop, I said, where are you going to be? He said, I'm right there. I ran up for whatever reason and grabbed my bag and jumped and got in the back of the cop car. And we're hauling ass down the road, and I'm knocking on the plexiglass. Officer, and he didn't want to answer. And I'm like, hey, dude, can you help me? I know you obviously can't say anything, but what am I stepping into here right here? And Steve, he looked over his shoulder, and that's when I'm like, he goes, it's not good. And Steve, that situation, went to the wake, went to the funeral, flew home. As you know, we did Raw the next night in St. Louis. Yeah. But in a week's time, we were kind of all back to work. And you okay, Jeff? Oh, I'm fine. And like a lot of us, it's what we did. Well, 19 years later, when I get into treatment and they sort of drill down on that, man, a flood of emotions came out. So it affected me in so many ways that I had no idea. A lot of ways that it's like, when he left home to go to Chicago, that was the last night. That Friday night was the last night that he slept in his, I don't want to call it a starter home, but the home. He built his dream home. And when he got home from that trip, he was to move into his dream home. So, they call it survivor's remorse and whatever it is. But just the knowing Owen and the kind of guy he was, and it affected me for a lot of years that I had no idea. But I can't even imagine, it's one thing, you're closing the show. Like, there was not a right or wrong decision. I would have hated to have been in Vince's shoes, and it just, to be put in those circumstances on so many levels, it's a night we'd all like to forget.
Boy, you ain't kidding. But you would face Godfather for the IC title a week later, the match that Owen was supposed to have at the pay-per-view. Obviously, an emotional time for you. But I thought as the IC champ, you really elevated yourself and your game, and you involved the character into a guy with edge and a mean streak.
Yes.
And the Don't Piss Me Off t-shirts, which really fit as part of the landscape of the Attitude Era. And I thought that's where you really started coming into your zone.
Yep.
Am I accurate?
Yeah. Again, big picture, when you defined Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Attitude Era's off and running, it took me a couple of years and a couple of iterations and the transition in WCW. But when I lost my hair, the tragic situations where I went from the tag to a single, and just it goes without saying, had China not been on that other side, that babyface side, and you look at opponents and all that kind of stuff, and my valets, Miss Kitty and Deborah, and just Vince knew I could pull off the character in a tasteful, money-drawing way, and the Don't Piss Me Off, it all just fit, and the guitar really started coming out. The different things that creatively, Ben Stiller wanted to sell his movies. Okay, Jeff can be in this segment.